Hello. Today the topic is all about ETL lifecycle, software development lifecycle, and software test lifecycle. So let's start with the understanding of ETL testing and how the ETL process will be working in the real scenario. And the agenda will be ETL process, STLC, and STLC. And the ETL process, how it will be working in the real time scenario. There will be three phases in the ETL process. One is extract, one is transform, and the last one is the load. So these three phases are related to the ETL process. For example, the extraction is the phase where we are receiving or gathering the data from multiple sources, whether it can be a file source or it can be a database or it can be a API. Irrespective of the sources, we are just retrieving the data from multiple, and then in the transform phase where we are making the data to be look like as per the business logic, or no, we are just cleaning the data, maintaining the data in a proper format. We are making some changes to look the data in a better way when compared to the source. For example, let's take no, we have a column of gender in a source where few people has been entered the data as female and few people as F, which means the data is not in a proper structure in the source. In the transform layer where we are making some changes and we are updating the data whether it can be F or female for all the data, so that the data will look the consistent way and we can make the analysis in a better way if we transform the data in a good looking way. And once we make the changes in this transform layer where we are cleaning the data, maintaining the data in a proper, accurate, and consistent way, and then finally we are loading the data into database or data warehouse or in the form of data mart. So that's how the ETL process will work. Extract, where we are getting the data or retrieving the data from multiple sources, and then in the transform layer we are making some changes, updating the data as per the business rules, as per the requirement, and then we are loading the data into database. That's how the ETL process will work. And next will be software development lifecycle, which means called STLC. These will be the development phase where we usually follow in ETL testing. In these ways, we have different steps. First step will be a requirement gathering, and next will be design, and next will be implementation, and next will be testing, and last will be the deployment and maintenance. In these requirement gathering, we will be getting all the inputs from the business, and then we are making a note of them how the product should be look like. And in the design phase where the development team will be designing based on the requirement got from the business. So in the designing phase, the UI UX design people will be involved, and the application front end developers will be involved, back end of everybody, architect and everything will be taken care in the design phase. And in implementation step where we are implementing the code which was developed by the dev team, the dev team will implement the code and they will be deploying the code. And once everything was being developed and implementation was done in this step, the dev team will ask the testing team to test the implemented code. And once the testing has been done and we don't have any issues, and then we are deploying the code in the last step. And the next one will be STLC. Here, the first step will be a requirement analysis, and the second step will be test plan, and third will be test case development, and fourth will be test execution, and the last one will be the test closure. So these are all the five steps which it will be involved in STLC lifecycle. In the requirement analysis phase, or the step where we are making sure the acceptance criteria, so what the business has been requested, the dev team has been developed or not. The steps which they have developed, we are making or gathering all the points in the requirement analysis to start our test plan. If we have 10 criteria which we need to test, and how much time it will be taken, the timeline, the test execution, test design, everything can be needs to be planned in this phase. And we should be able to tell them we require this much of timeline, and we are in a good shape to start the test case design. And the third step where the test case development will be taken care. So here, whatever the criteria we have received from the business, the same criteria should be justified in your test case design. For example, there is a scenario where we need to test the column should be added in one of the table. In the test case design, we should be able to cover the scenarios like the count should not be impacted by adding the column, and the column name should be added in a required table, and the column name format. These kind of steps should be involved in the test case design. Whatever the test cases we are developing in this test case development step, the same test cases should be executed. And once everything has been satisfied as per the requirement analysis, then we are just sending a sign off where the test has been completed and there were no issues with the code which has been developed. So this is all about the ETL process, STLC and STLC. Let's take an example for each of the cycle for ETL process, SDLC and STLC. For example, for ETL life cycle, we have 100 files and which consist of data related to customer, product, payment, and order information. So these are all in 100 files, and this is in a Excel format. Let's take that. And there will be a layer called transform in the middle, and the last layer will be load. So for transform layer, uh, we are consolidating the data from 100 files with 4 tables in such a way. In customer table, we should have the information related to only customer. Mm, let's say a name of the customer, customer region where he's from, customer address, customer phone number. So like that we are segregating the data and we are just consolidating them in a better way of understanding. For each table, for customer we should see only customer information, and for product table we should see only product information. The company which produces 10 products. The 10 products detail should be available in the product table, and in the payment information it should be available only the customer payment related information, whether he paid from the credit card, debit card, or mode of payment, and when he paid, the order created date. Likewise, whatever the information we have in 100 files, we are consolidating them into a 4 tables, and each table should be justified with the information of customer table should have the customer information, and product table should have only the product related information. For example, the product should have only the product name, product info, and in order table it should have order date, and in payment table it should have mode of payment. So whatever the data we have, we are consolidating them based on the requirement. We are just keeping some changes for the same data which is available in a source, but in a better way, easy to understand for any of the users. And then finally, we are loading it into a database. Whatever the tables we are structuring and maintaining in a transform layer, the same list of tables, customer, product, order, and payment. These tables can be available in the database where it is easy to understand, easy to make analysis, easy to update the data whenever required. For example, one customer has been added and one customer has been created user ID in the application. The in the database in a customer table, one user has been added in a under customer table. So, which means what I mean to say is, whenever we are making some updations in the application, irrespective of the source, the addition, modification, updation, everything can be reflected in a appropriate table under respective table. The customer information can be updated whenever any customer has been updated, added, deleted. The same information should be updated in a customer table, which is easy to keep update and track changes in the front end application. So that's why we are maintaining this ETL testing. And in software development lifecycle, where we are gathering the requirements can be gathered from the business. uh, they will be asking you the product how it should look like. For example, if they want to migrate the data from Oracle database to SQL Server with some changes, here the source will be Oracle, and target will be SQL Server. And here the business will justify some acceptance criteria, some logics or requirement in the form of a document, or where we need to follow them whenever we are migrating the data from source to target. For example, we need to migrate to 10 tables from source to target. Whether they are expecting any of the changes in any of the table, or we need to merge any of the two tables, those kind of criteria can be given by business, and we are gathering in the requirement phase. And then based on the requirement, based on the suggestion from the business, we are designing our script, and then we are implementing them in the form of a code, and then where the testing team will be started their testing. So whatever the requirement or received from the business, the same logic should be implemented by the dev team, and the testing team should also design the test cases and execute them based on the acceptance criteria or the document received from the business. So it should satisfy all the requirements which we got from the business. And these trust cases, everything can be reviewed from the team, where they will suggest if there are any changes need to be taken care, and if any of the requirement is not satisfied, the testing team will be raising them as a defect or a bug, where the development team should be modifying, or they should be updating their code based on the requirement, and then they can deploy the code, and finally it will move to the end user phase, where the end user can be using the application, and these will be called as a live environment, where the changes will be reflected automatically. If you are making any changes in the front end application, those changes can be automatically reflected in the associated database. Earlier, it will be the Oracle database before we make the changes, and after the migration, it should be the application should be associated with the SQL server. The endpoint should be a SQL server where it should be associated with, and if the end user is making changes, and it should be updated in the SQL server in a respective table.